It was supposed to be a routine stop, but what happened next left everyone speechless. A visibly pregnant black woman pulls into a parking lot after a minor traffic issue, only to be approached by a police officer with a bad attitude and questionable intentions. Instead of offering help or understanding, he mocks her, belittling her in front of onlookers. But what he doesn't know is that this woman isn't alone, and her husband is about to arrive. And he's not just any man. He's someone with the power and influence to make things right. As tension rises, the officer's arrogance begins to falter. The crowd watches in shock, wondering how this confrontation will end. Will justice be served, or will the officer's behavior go unchecked? Stay tuned as this dramatic story unfolds, revealing an unforgettable twist you won't want to miss. The officer stands tall, his tone dripping with condescension as he questions the woman. She tries to stay calm, explaining that she's late for a doctor's appointment, but he cuts her off, rolling his eyes and muttering something under his breath. The people nearby start to notice what's happening, exchanging uneasy glances. Her hands tremble as she searches for her ID, but his mocking smirk only grows. "Take your time," he sneers. "It's not like anyone's waiting for you." What the officer doesn't realize is that the woman had already called her husband before pulling over. A self-made businessman with deep ties to the community, he's on his way, and he's not happy. As the officer continues to make snide comments, the sound of an approaching luxury car catches everyone's attention. The tension thickens as the vehicle pulls up, its doors opening slowly. All eyes are on what happens next. The sleek car comes to a stop, and out steps a man whose presence immediately commands attention. Dressed sharply and carrying himself with quiet authority, he glances at his wife, her discomfort written all over her face, and then at the officer. His jaw tightens, but he remains composed. The crowd, now growing larger, whispers amongst themselves, sensing the shift in the air. The officer hesitates for a moment, as if realizing he might have miscalculated, but quickly covers it up with more bravado. "Is there a problem here?" The husband asks firmly, his deep voice cutting through the tension. The officer straightens up, feigning confidence, and starts to explain the situation. But the man isn't interested in excuses. He looks the officer in the eye, his calm demeanor masking the storm brewing inside him. Meanwhile, the woman watches silently, her husband's arrival giving her the strength to hold back tears. The stage is set, but no one knows how this will end. The officer's tone shifts slightly, but the arrogance remains as he says, "Sir, this doesn't concern you. I'm handling it." The husband doesn't flinch. Instead, he steps closer, his eyes unwavering. "It concerns me when my wife is being disrespected," he replies, his voice steady but loaded with meaning. The crowd grows quieter, sensing the confrontation is about to reach its boiling point. The officer tries to maintain control, rattling off a vague explanation about standard procedures, but his words falter as the husband pulls out his phone. Calmly, he starts recording, making sure every word and action is documented. The officer notices and shifts uncomfortably, his bravado starting to crack. "You know, I have friends in high places," the husband says, his tone still calm, but with a sharp edge. "And I don't think they'll take kindly to hearing how their officer treats a pregnant woman." The tension is palpable as the officer glances around, realizing he's no longer in control of the situation. Just as the tension seems unbearable, another police car pulls into the parking lot. The new officer, a senior with a calm but authoritative presence, steps out and approaches the scene. The crowd, now fully invested, watches in anticipation. The senior officer glances at the situation, immediately noticing the strained faces of the couple and the growing unease of his colleague. "What's going on here?" he asks, his voice cutting through the tense atmosphere. The first officer quickly begins to explain, trying to downplay the situation and cast himself in a better light. But the senior officer raises a hand, signaling him to stop. Turning to the husband, he asks, "Sir, is there an issue you'd like to report?" Before the husband can respond, the first officer interrupts, nervously insisting there's no problem. The senior officer narrows his eyes, sensing something isn't right. "I'll decide that," he says firmly. The husband takes a deep breath and begins to recount everything, his words measured but powerful. As the truth starts to unfold, the senior officer's expression hardens. The crowd leans in, waiting to see what will happen next. As the husband finishes explaining, the senior officer turns to his colleague with a look that speaks volumes. "Is this true?" he asks, his voice low but commanding. The first officer stammers, trying to spin his behavior as a misunderstanding, but it's clear he's cornered. The senior officer doesn't wait for excuses. "Step aside," he orders, his tone leaving no room for argument. Then, turning to the woman, the senior officer speaks with genuine concern. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry for how you've been treated today. Are you feeling okay? Do you need medical assistance?" The woman, still shaken but steady, shakes her head. "I just want to get to my appointment," she says quietly. Just as it seems justice has been served, the husband calmly steps forward again, phone still in hand. "Before we go, you should know this isn't the first time he's acted this way," he says, his voice deliberate. "I've seen complaints about him before." The senior officer's face tightens. "We'll be looking into this immediately," he says, signaling that the first officer is now under review. As the couple drives off, the crowd disperses, murmuring about the powerful moment they'd just witnessed. Little did the first officer know, the husband's video was already circulating online, and change was about to come faster than anyone expected. In the days that followed, the video quickly gained traction online, sparking widespread conversations about accountability and respect in law enforcement. The husband's calm yet firm response and the couple's dignity resonated with viewers, drawing attention to the importance of standing up against mistreatment. The senior officer stayed true to his word, launching an investigation into his colleague's behavior. As more stories surfaced about similar encounters with the first officer, it became clear this incident wasn't isolated. Swift action was taken, ensuring he faced the consequences of his actions. For the couple, the experience was a reminder of the power of unity and courage in the face of adversity. They chose to use their platform to advocate for others, speaking out about the changes they hoped to see. While the road to justice is never simple, their story served as a powerful example of resilience, love, and the impact of doing what's right,